It's the JT the Brick Show.
Removing the word I from our verbiage as much as possible and thinking about the team, how we can make the team better, keep the I out of the building as much as possible.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
The thing that I love about football is teaching the players and building relationships. You can't hide from each other.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT with you, back at the Lotus Broadcasting Studios. Back from deep Henderson at Raiders practice this morning. Oh, yeah, that's early, man. You got to be a football player to get up at that time and play. That's got to help, right? Only team in the NFL practicing every day at 7:30 local time. Only team, from what I've heard. And they're after it, man. It starts and it just explodes on you. It starts and it's go time, and that's fun to see. No loud music, no bump, no screaming in the back. Wow, we were talking today, me and a couple of the OGs at the Raiders, some OGs who have been there behind the scenes for a while. Kind of nice, a little bit, so it might change. I don't know what they're going to do, but kind of nice to come out on the field and you don't hear bump, and loud music from two parking lots over, and everybody, you can hear the coaches teach, right? We've been talking about teaching. You can hear the coaches teach in the middle of the field. You can hear the players excited. All ball. The new look Raiders, the new practice Raiders. All business, baby. Just win, baby. All business at practice. And again, as far as I can tell, everybody was healthy again today when we got there. Bussing with the boys were there. There were a couple of national media, including Jarrett Bell from USA Today. Got a chance to spend some time with him. He's joining us in 15 minutes. He will join us here 1:15. Also, Kevin Bolinger, the sports director at Fox 5, partner with the Raiders. Kevin gets all these camp interviews before anybody. He's getting to sit down with the coach, Cousins, Fernando. He'll tell us what he's prepping for. Barry Sims on our signature series, which is doing very well. How do I know it's doing very well? I don't know if it's doing very well. It's kind of like a restaurant, Connor. How's your restaurant doing? It's doing very well. JT, how's your summer series, signature series going? It's going very well. Today, Barry Sims. Barry Sims wasn't a Pro Bowler. He was one of my favorite people I've ever met with the Raiders, one of my personal friends, one of the guys I became friends with who was a Raider. And we're going to talk to Barry about, he played in a Super Bowl for the Raiders, won an AFC championship game, started for years, went to the Niners, stayed in the Bay Area for his family. Barry's a good guy, soft-spoken guy, kind of like Kubiak, soft-spoken. We'll talk to Barry coming up at the top of next hour. And then we're going to play Fernando. Play it. Give it to me and I will play it. Give it to me and I will play Fernando. Quick announcement, tomorrow at this time, we're at Grimaldi's, the best pizza I've ever had, over on Eastern, as you climb up Eastern. And when you get there, we'll be there from noon to 2. We'll have some giveaways, some prizes. Hopefully some cool people will be there. I would appreciate it if you would show up. I don't do many remotes. This year, I think we'll do a few more. Normally, the Grimaldi's I'm at is over by Boca Park. They want to do it there by Eastern because it's close to the Raiders. So if you're on the Henderson side of the valley or anywhere else, it's 10 minutes away from where you live, please come on out and have some pizza. It's a great pizza, cervezas. And also, our good friends from Remy Martin will be there pouring some signature cocktails, which should be fun. So that's tomorrow. We'll get that going. Then we go into the weekend, and supposedly it's hot. I guess the hottest day ever was 116. Ever. Hottest day ever in recorded Vegas history is 116. What happens if the sun wakes up one day in a bad mood and it's 140 and we're all dead? Like, could that happen? I don't know how the sun works. Can't one day it go from 118 to 140? I would think it could. Anything's possible. We have never been over 116 in Las Vegas. Now, Death Valley's gone to 130 in some areas not too far away, but we're going to approach that. We're going to be sitting at around 115. And remember, Summerlin, 5 degrees cooler than Henderson. I should be the mayor of Summerlin someday, even though I live on the border of it. I like to tell everybody I live on the mean streets of Summerlin. And you can live anywhere in Vegas now. And people are moving here. They're coming from California. Wonder why. They're streaming over from California to come here. And hopefully we get more Raider fans along the way. So what happened at practice today? Just good camaraderie. I saw Brock Bowers make a catch that was freakishly amazing. It was on the far sidelines, and everybody. There was a part during the 11-on-11 drill that I saw where They handed off the ball to Genty, and they're not in pads, remember. They're not in pads, so they're not tackling, but they're getting after it. And they handed the ball off to Genty up the middle, and Adam Butler and Max were behind the line of scrimmage, and they started chirping. They were chirping, like, all right, man, it's us, we got you, going. And then the next play or the play after that, and I'm sure someone put it out on X, they threw a ball to Brock to the sideline, and he I thought the ball was out of bounds. He caught it. The whole offense exploded, and they were yelling at the defense, like, you take that. So it's just cool to see. I hung out mostly today on an area where they were doing offensive line drills and the coaching over there. I kind of like that. I like the offensive line to see how they're rolling through the rotation and all that. Fernando looked good. Fernando spoke, so we'll play that here in a little bit. And everything seems to go swimmingly today. Everybody seems to be good. Afterwards, they lift weights. They do some media. A couple of alumni there. Jason Horowitz, the voice of the Raiders, was there today. And it was a lot of fun. So, again, nothing earth-shattering. That's why I don't go earth-shatteringly crazy during training camp or the offseason. Nothing crazy's going down. You're not missing anything, Raider Nation, but Raider fans are coming. So they're going to have open practices for Raider fans, the season ticket holders, who will be going if you're coming to that. And the Raiders do a brilliant job of that in regards to having water, having shade, as they built out the whole area at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. So you'll be able to sit in shade, but it's going to be hot. And that's why they're doing it early in the morning. I don't know this, but I don't think you could have had open practice for fans at any time after 10 o'clock or 11. No way. I mean, you just can't. The asphalt alone, it's just so hot. And that's one of the only, I think, pullbacks of playing football in Vegas, is that you have to practice early in the morning, and they don't have a problem with that. They have an indoor building. They're great with that. If it becomes a monsoon or a dust storm, they can move it inside. They can have practices inside and walkthroughs. So everything's pretty good, but it's a little bit earlier. And I talked to some of the media that was there, especially the national media, and it's different. It's like a lot of guys who write for a living, they don't get up at 6:30 in the morning. They work till, like I do, 11 o'clock at night, and they like to get a little bit of sleep. So they get a little bit of sleep, and then they got to be over there at 7 to sign in and go through the protocol. It's a long day. And for the players, I've been asking the players a little bit about it, but the players are they're laser beams now. And you can tell that a lot of these guys are trying out for the team, a lot of the veterans. Like, everybody's equal. There's Brock, there's Max. Cousins is a veteran. You know what I'm talking about. But everybody else, I think everybody, could you tell me if we did a show today, if I said, hey, can you name the 11 starters on offense and defense? I promise you couldn't. You think you know them. All of us guys and gals have depth charts that we think's going to happen here, but this is the year where you got to ask yourself and say to yourself, wow, who's going to start at corner? Can Masses from Cal jump to the one? I don't know. Could he outplay Darian Porter? I don't know. I think he probably can. Why couldn't he? Right? Eric Stokes is going to be one of the starters. The other cornerback on the other side has got to feel pretty good. Caillou Blue Kelly, I thought, was way in over his head, and I think he led the team in interceptions, right? And, he was from Bishop Gorman, and he didn't play much, and now all of a sudden he's not in the league, I don't believe. So the other cornerback position is going to be big. The guard battle is going to be big, because we can never assume that Jackson Powers-Johnson has anything. I don't know why, but we can never assume. We can never assume that Jackson Powers-Johnson is locked in for anything. But I think I like him. I pull for him here. I think he's a good kid, and he deserves to start. But we'll see what happens there. Linda, the starters are penciled in. But as Max said yesterday, he looked behind him. And saw Kwity Paye and the linebackers, and he's like, oh, my God, these guys are bigger than me. And that was cool today. I think, who was I talking to? Either Will Kiss or Paul Gutierrez. I think it was Paul Gutierrez. And I was talking about the linebackers, and they're just badasses. I mean, they're chirping, and they're up against the line of scrimmage, and they're dropping back in. Thank you, John Spytek, that we have some linebackers. We used to have the best linebackers in football in the 70s and 80s. We had Rod Martin, may he rest in peace. Matt Millen, our partner here on radio. Phil Villapiano, one of the greats. Raiders have always had some pretty good linebackers. Always. We went about 20 years where we just had a bunch of guys. Just a bunch of guys, nothing great. No Ray Lewis walked in the door. We get Denzel Perryman to make a Pro Bowl. Or you got a good player. Kirk Morrison, very good player. Kirk Morrison was a really good player. Right? You can put Kirk Morrison, and the more and more we get away from Greg Biekert, the years that go on with Greg Biekert, I think all Raider Nation, especially Oakland fans, are like, man, Greg Biekert was a good player. That was a really good football player in Greg Biekert. But we got to get some badasses around here. And if you look at the B-roll and the highlights over the years coming out of Green Bay and Philadelphia of the new linebackers we have, they made a lot of plays, and they got to make them here. As my buddy Chris in West Oakland says all the time, can someone catch the ball in the secondary? Can we catch the ball? They're going to throw the ball. It's called the forward pass. And our secondary is going to go look at the ball. Can we catch the ball? Can we create turnovers? Can we have some guys at the safety and corner position that can guard people and intercept the football? Over the years, recently, we have brought in players who have had a bit of a track record and then have died in Vegas with no track record with interceptions. Our safeties, as of now, Isaiah Palomal and Jeremy Chin. Traden Stukes, I believe, will start. I'll go out on that island. I won't die on that hill, but I'll go out on the limb because that's where the fruit is. I think that Stukes will play, and Taron Johnson will play a lot at slot corner. I think those guys can intercept the football. They better, because when they got on the phone and they got drafted and the GM and the coach got on the phone with them, it was like, hey, man, do what you did and bring it here. Well, what they did was they were able to intercept the football. So we need some ball hawks around here. And I think that should help in a lot of ways. I think it should help in a lot of ways because the pass rush should be better. Malcolm Kuntz is a guy that just, if you don't know where he is, you don't know where he is. Like you see him out there, then you watch him play, and Malcolm Kuntz is a good player, but we all know this is a make or break year for Malcolm Kuntz. We've seen enough now of Malcolm Kuntz to know that he is not Myles Garrett and Max Crosby. So if he wants to stay here, he's got to make some plays. Okay, Adam Butler today looked pretty good, looks to be in good shape, fighting shape. Like, he's good, but he's not Aaron Donald, right? He's not one of those players that you look at and say Pro Bowl. Well, he's got to get better, right? Those are the type of positions groups that got to get better. I'm good with linebacker. I'm good with what we brought in at linebacker. Start those gentlemen, let them play. And then I think we already have 3 of the 4 starters, or maybe 2 of the 4 starters in the secondary with Jeremy Chin and Eric Stokes penciled in to start. Let's keep them healthy. And then the other guys are going to come in on this Robbie Leonard rotation, right, where we're going to have nickel backs in there. You're going to take out a linebacker and put Stukes in, or you're going to do something to kind of have a hybrid player come in. I love that. I mean, let's do some hybrid stuff around here, which would be a little good. On the offensive side, Ashton Jeanty is a really good pass-catching back. I mean, he's smooth. He's worked a lot on this. Ashton Jeanty, when he runs a route outside the backfield, he catches the ball. He's got good hands. You can see the ball coming in. He's a very good player. And I think for everybody, I don't know what's going to happen with his touches. I'm assuming they're going to go down, right? Because Mike Washington Jr. is going to have to get some touches, and we're not going to give the ball to Ashton on every play, but he's going to be much more productive because he's going to be able to get to the line of scrimmage. What happens after the line of scrimmage is supposed to be the strength for him because he's supposed to make people miss. Ashton Jeanty, if you're going one-on-one with him, he's got to give you a juke and get by you. But if Ashton Jeanty can't get by the scrum at the line of scrimmage because he's getting tattooed 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, you can't do anything to help him. That's why I like to run it behind Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum's not going to get thrown back into the quarterback. That guy goes forward. So we got to get the guard situation, Burford, and got to see what JPJ is going to do. And Zune. There's a lot of people whispering in hushed tones. Shh, the Trey Zunes could start. Someone told me that today, but not confident enough to get on the radio with it. They said, I wouldn't be surprised if he started this year. I said, oh, boy, that'd be interesting. He's that good, huh? He's that good? Yeah, so we'll see. So everybody's healthy. That's a really big deal. And also, I wanted to dedicate the memory of this radio show to Billy Ray Smith, the former Charger legend, Arkansas Hall of Famer who passed away. Billy Ray Smith was a hell of a football player, and he was a radio host in San Diego. When I got my start in radio, when I was listening in San Diego, Billy Ray, the Scott and BR show, Scott Kaplan's a great friend of mine. He comes on the show often. Often he comes on the show, and found out that Billy Ray Smith, he was fighting, he got hit a lot, CTE, and the situation that he was in, for a long time he wasn't in a good place, but he passed on, and really sad to see that today. So for those who know the rivalry, Billy Ray Smith was a really good player, a friend, more of an acquaintance, but definitely a friend, someone that I saw around often when I was in San Diego. We had mutual friends, and I thought he was a really good radio host, man. It's tough to be an athlete and just jump in. It's tough to be an athlete and just jump in and be a sports talk radio host. Not a lot of people can do that, but he was able to do that at a high level, and we were excited to get to know him over the years. Gone to a few remotes where he was at. He was married to a really solid anchor, Kimberly, his wife, there in San Diego, and I was impressed with him as a host. So I want to get that into the monologue. I know a lot of people who watch in San Diego or know football know Billy Ray Smith and what he was able to do. Right after him came Junior Seau. And Junior became a friend. Later in Junior's life, when I went to a Super Bowl, the Raiders Super Bowl, Junior Seau had a restaurant called Seau's. And I did my show from there for a week. And Junior was so nice because the show ended late at night at midnight. The bar was closed when the show ended. And Junior Seau would wait for the show to end and have a cigar with me. He had a cigar bar there. And we'd sit around for a half hour, have a cocktail and a cigar. And I became really good friends with Junior Seau, enough to be on a first-name basis, have his phone number, and then unfortunately his life came to an end. So there's a lot of heavy hearts today in San Diego, and there's always a rivalry between the Raiders and the Chargers. But when a fallen player goes down, you always want to bring that up. Jarrett Bell is one of the best insiders you'll find. He's a Hall of Fame voter. His years of success at USA Today, and it was great to see him out at Raiders training camp. So, Jarrett, let's start. Before we get into some Hall of Fame talking around the league, what impressed you on your stay so far as you were in Vegas with the Raiders, just seeing the new look team?
Yeah, that Klint Kubiak, the new coach, has the good sense of having practice at 7:30 in the morning to beat the Heat. So that has impressed me, right? It's training camp, it's practices, it's no pads. I'm just kind of, passing through. So I'm not so plugged into some of the finer points of what's happening. But, you always look at the quarterbacks. And, Kirk is moving around pretty well. And Mendoza, he looks like he could play. And, that's kind of, Max is the fact that Max Crosby's out there after his adventurous offseason. And, that's a great thing. And I actually had a chance to sit down and talk to him yesterday and could just really feel, everything people say about him and his passion and his attitude and all that kind of stuff. So, it's early.
Yeah, nicely said. I wanted to follow up on the early practice. You've been doing this a long time, and that is very rare, even when you covered the Raiders in Napa or if it was Costa Mesa or another city along the way when they were in L.A. I mean, this is very rare, and as you can tell by the heat that's happening in Vegas, it's kind of smart to do that early. But how does that affect the team when you're done at 9:30 and then you got just meetings and meals and, breakout sessions the rest of the day? Do you have a comment on that?
It'd be interesting to see what some of the veteran players think about it. But training camp is such a grind. Yeah. So, in fact, in talking to Max yesterday, he talked about how, his whole thing is, being an early morning guy anyway. So he had worked out and done rehab and all that stuff before practice yesterday. But I think that's probably when you think about, all the guys, they have to deal with their clock and just kind of to know how to best maximize their performance at different parts of the day. But I think that can be good, too, because in the NFL where you've got games any given day of the week nowadays, right? In whatever time zone and whatever country and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have to adapt to a lot of different situations the longer you're in the league as a player to get ready to perform in different, environments, different times and all of that. So, easy for me to say, but I would not think it's that big of a deal. But, like I said, I'd rather hear that from some of the players who have done it a lot of different ways.
Jarrett Bell is our guest, USA Today. We had a nice conversation because Eric Allen came by, and when Eric Allen walked by and we were able to talk with him, he just got into the Hall of Fame, and you're a Hall of Fame voter. And, I don't want to share all the details of our conversation, but you were explaining to EA, it took him 19 years. And for you, behind the scenes there, you were saying there could be 25 guys who should be potential Hall of Famers, but only 5 or 6 get in. You do this year after year. What type of pressure is that for you when you get in that room and you know that good football players who eventually will get in the Hall of Fame might have to wait another year, 2, 3, 4, or 5? What's that like?
Or 10. Yeah, it's tough. It's one of the most gut-wrenching things that you do. So I've been on the committee, and I've got to sit down and count. It's probably been 28 years or 29, something like that, since the late 90s when I got on it. And when they invited me to get on it, I thought, oh, sure, who can't pick the Hall of Famers, right? Well, you can pick Dan Marino and Bruce Smith and Ronnie Lott, and there's no problem with that. Okay, but there are so many deserving players that we never even get to discuss fully. And so that's why for Eric Allen it was great that he finally got in, even though, like we were saying, it was 19 years, because I'm looking at the ballot of really forecasting next year, but thinking of the past ballot. I mean, we've got guys who have been up for election and in the final 15. So, it's one thing to be a guy who was a Pro Bowl player and whatever, and then now you're eligible. But then you think about some of the guys who have been in the final 15 for multiple years. Reggie Wayne comes to mind, right? Now, is he a Hall of Famer or not? Well, he's been a finalist and been in the final 10 for, X number of years. Jarrett Evans is another one who is interesting because he's a guard. He was a guard for the Saints and one of Drew Brees' protectors, and one of prolific offense and any number of all pros, which you could say about Steve Wisniewski as well. So same sort of deal in terms of being an interior lineman who doesn't get a lot of notoriety and can easily be overlooked. And it's probably been 5-6 years now that Jarrett Evans has been in the final 10 or whatever. And so that's the thing that, kind of concerns you. And then we have situations like last year or earlier this year, actually, when Bill Belichick doesn't get in. Bob Kraft was the Patriots owner, is the Patriots owner, and was the contributor finalist. He didn't get in. And so you've got those people, competing against players for slots. It's a heck of a competition, even though the people who are candidates are not really competing anymore because they can't do anything. And so it does, like I say, you got me going here, but it can be a gut-wrenching thing because that there are, for every guy that gets in, and I think that was the point I was making yesterday, JT, is that, for every guy that gets in, there's, 10, 20 other guys that could be in, and maybe they will be the next year or the next year after that. But, when you get new guys coming into the class every year, it complicates it even more.
Jarrett Bell, one more national question for you. Baker Mayfield, I feel like they lowballed him, and Baker said, look, I'm not going to negotiate once the season started, so that window has obviously closed. I think that's a mistake for Tampa. I think they found the right guy that should be their guy for years to come, but I'm also part of those people that say don't overpay a quarterback. If you don't think Baker Mayfield's worth $50 million and you think he's worth $27 million, let him prove it. And, you covered Darrelle Revis. No one did it better than Revis on a one-year deal, right? He did a one-year deal every year and made more money. But how do you think that plays out in Tampa if Baker's not happy, Vita Vea wants to be traded, and they already lost Mike Evans to the 49ers?
Yeah, that's interesting because to your point, after Tom Brady, what do you do, right? And then you end up with Baker Mayfield, who had been to, a few other spots, that Carolina, which, shoot, he could have been Carolina's quarterback. The Rams, he had a stop there. But he ends up in Tampa, and it works for him. So like you said, it's rolling the dice. I think from, just a, outsider's viewpoint, you would have hoped or thought that they could have found some middle ground, that you build a contract that maybe has some of those incentives in there about, making the Pro Bowl or taking the really team-oriented goals, right? Win a division playoff game and you get $10 million or whatever. I think those are the types of things that you almost have to do when you're trying to negotiate for somebody that you really, really want to keep. And so, I don't know if it's done yet. You have deadlines, but sometimes if people throw a pile of money at you right before the season, right, I think that's another window of opportunity. Now, I know if Baker said, hey, I don't want to talk about it, maybe that's what you have an agent for, right? Yeah. And, I think like Dak Prescott, I know the Cowboys obviously have had any number of contract issues over recent years, but remember Dak Prescott a couple of years ago got the highest paid quarterback deal at that time at $60 million a year, and that deal wasn't done until like opening day. Yeah. I mean, Prescott was there, he was in training camp and all of that, but from a timing standpoint, that's when it happened. CeeDee Lamb, that's when it happened. And guess what, JT? Think about this. How many times do we see contracts across the NFL get done in that week of the season opener? We've seen guys hold out until they get that. But one of the things that's interesting from a cash flow standpoint is that's when NFL teams get that first big paycheck from the networks, right? And so from a cash flow standpoint, oftentimes, and I'm not saying this is the deal for every case and every team, but I've always found it interesting that knowing that the TV money is coming in, or the first big payment is coming in right around end of August, early September, that some of these deals all of a sudden get done.
Outstanding. Jarrett, I've always respected your work. I told you I've been reading your columns my whole career, so it's always good to catch up with you when you can. Safe travels and going to other camps, and I hope we can catch up throughout the season. I appreciate you.
Yeah, hey, JT, you don't cause as much controversy as you used to back in the day.
No, I guess I just turned 60, so I'm very quiet, man. A little social media. I fight back on social media a little bit, but no, I'm not here to fight anymore.
Throwing bricks at people and stuff like that. No, literally. I mean, figuratively speaking.
Take care, my friend.
Okay, you too, my man. Take care.
You got it. That's great. Jarrett Bell. Appreciate him checking in. Really good guy. I mean, what a legend sports writer. And we had a good conversation talking about. We were talking to him and Eric Allen. I'm not going to say everything we talked about, but I thought it was really unique when we were saying, we're getting some feedback here. I don't know what's going on, but sorry about that. As we sit here and I look back at our conversation that we had with Jarrett Bell, the print media is going away, and it is going away. And it shouldn't be going away, right? Print media should never be going away. I still read newspaper columns, and he was pretty interested to hear that I read 10 newspapers a day. And what I mean by that is I have a website deal here in front of me for those who could look. You could see us. We're on YouTube, everybody, JT the Brick on YouTube. And I have this thing where every day I look at the same 10 newspapers my whole career. And I just go to the sports pages. I look for the headlines. I read. And then I look for columnists like Jarrett Bell, and I read their columns because they're writers and they write in-depth columns. And as he was explaining it to me, he says he still likes to get feedback from people when he writes a deep dive on something and someone reads the whole thing. Because we are going through a moment in media that is changing vastly and quickly. Right? Bussin' with the boys today sat down with all the Raider quarterbacks. I saw that. All of them. They came out to sit down with them. That's social media, but it's content. It's going to be on their platforms and all that. That's not a column. Imagine a sports writer 30 years ago sitting down with the entire Raider quarterback room, writing a column, and then having to print it and put it in a newspaper and for you to read it. That's dead. That's done. So the last of the journalists who are left that are writing articles about the NFL, please read it. These are how these gentlemen and women make their livelihood. And they put a lot of work into writing a good story. And we're living in this new era where everybody's attention span's about 22 seconds. My son, hey, Dad, give me something for a reel. What's a reel? Right back. A reel, we're doing well, Dad, with the reels. The reels are big for us, supposedly my son says on Instagram. JT the Brick LV. Go in the park, Dad, walk, do a reel. People love that. They love seeing how real you are when you're walking and you're talking. Well, I like to read columns in newspapers still because there's really good information deep inside those columns. And I see them still at Yahoo and ESPN.com, but there aren't many left. That's the monologue, thanks to Jarrett Bell. Brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo. We do everything with Modelo. Whatever Modelo asks us to do, we do it. It could be with the super fans of the Black Hole. It could be a grand opening party. It could be the Black Hole as they open up the season at the Palms with Too Short and Warren G. It could be a regular radio remote. The fighting spirit of Modelo. I reward myself with a bucket of Modelo's every Friday, and I guess that's tomorrow. But tomorrow I'm at Grimaldi's on Eastern with some of the best pizza you ever had. I'll order the Brooklyn Bridge. I'll give you a slice. I'll be having some slices there for you. We'll be pouring some nice cocktails, and if you want a Modelo, I'll have a Modelo with you because I'm a tenured sports talk host who's allowed to have a cold beer while I'm on the air. Not in the building. I've never cracked a beer in the building. I think that's not allowed. But I will have a beer in a restaurant if it's ice cold. And we'll be indoors tomorrow. That was funny, too. Grimaldi's are like, we're going to set it up outside. No. We'll be inside at that. And come cool off and have some pizza with us. Kevin Bolinger will join us coming up. The sports director from Fox 5. That's a hell of a business card. You got that. You can get it anywhere in town. He'll join us, and he's got eagle eyes on practice, what he thinks. Barry Sims, how do you like our Signature Moment series? We had Bill Romanowski, Frank Hawkins, Phil Villapiano. All the guests that we've had so far have been outstanding. Barry Sims at the top of the hour.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by the Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
Yeah, I think being more vocal for sure. I mean, it's always tough, being in your first year, trying to figure out so much stuff. But, this year, there's a lot, of expectations for me, and I think I got to make a big jump. But I think that starts with, helping my teammates as well and just being a better teammate. So I think that starts with leadership.
That's Action Genty. JT back with you as we continue on. The M Resort, that's where the rookies stay. You already know that. That's the official hotel of the Raiders. A lot of rookies are getting treated to nice accommodations, really nice accommodations over at the M. I mean, you think about that. They're having the time of their life. Going to the M, their meals are made. They come down, the shuttle's there. It takes them really close. It's very close to Raider headquarters. So 2 towers are better than 1. And we're excited. I'm excited to see what's going on over at the M as we start again today and get going here. Q's coming up next. I saw him at practice today. Vince Sapienza was hosting from down there today. So there's just a lot going on here with the station. I found out yesterday that I'll go to Houston, traveling with the team to Houston. So we'll be there for that week, which should be a lot of fun, and we're excited about that. So there's a lot going on here over the last couple of weeks before we get to that first preseason game and get going here. Yeah, I'm going to take this off because we're getting a little bit of feedback here, and feedback on the radio is no good. So we might have to cut off the stream. It's amazing I'm fighting these battles, man. It's amazing I'm fighting these battles, but I take the high road, and we will figure out the technology in this studio at some point. 702-365-9200 is the number if you want to get through. Kevin Bolinger from Fox 5 is going to join us here momentarily, and he's getting ready to do his big interviews, which will be a part of the coverage that we see, the big coverage that we see that comes down right at the start of the season as all these games are on Fox 5. So with all the games on Fox 5 here in Vegas and their coverage there, Kevin has a great relationship with the Raiders to get really good content before most people are able to do that, which is really strong. Barry Sims will join us at the top of the hour, and we'll get to Barry coming up here on his signature moment. The one thing that I'm doing with these signature moment interviews that I'm doing here is I'm not asking them in advance what their signature moment is. And Bill Romanowski joined us yesterday, and he said his signature moment was signing his contract. I thought that was breathtaking. When he just signing the contract, which said Denver didn't want him anymore after all of his wins, and he had to go play for the Raiders, the rival, that fired him up. That was really cool. Kevin Bolinger joins us, the sports director from Fox 5. He's everywhere here in the Valley. He's been at every practice, and good to have you, Kevin. What do you think so far? I mean, they're not in pads yet, but pretty efficient. Everybody's in attendance, and those practices are starting early, huh?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier today, JT, about how efficient the practices are and how they're really getting a lot crammed in to the amount of time that they're allowed to do with the collective bargaining agreement with the players. They only get so much time on the field. They only get so much time in the building each day during training camp. And you can tell under Klint Kubiak that they are going to squeeze out every single second that they can to get the most out of these guys during training camp.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway by far. I mean, I can't, some of the stuff we both know behind the scenes or personnel, it's not a lot. I mean, this is a new staff. We don't know them very good yet. But the thing I can tell you is I just couldn't wait to watch how quickly the practices started, how efficient they would be, the lack of music in the background, the lack of noise. It just seems like it's much more focused on football and teaching. I mean, I was standing there with you, and we were able to hear the coaches on the other sideline or in the middle of the field barking out instructions. I don't remember being able to do that and hear that over the rap music or the rock music of the past. It just seemed like it's more conducive to teaching. Is that fair?
Totally fair, and it's really on par with what we heard during the entire OTA process when we talked to the players about Klint Kubiak, saying he's all business, he's all football all the time. That's all he wants to worry about is that. And we're seeing that translate into the training camp and the way that it's set up. That they're doing things. And you know what? There have been other ways that it is done around the NFL, but at this point, let's Kubiak do his thing, and it can't hurt to try this new way. And if the players are on board with this all business all the time, then let's go for it and see what kind of results it brings on the field.
The work you're doing with Fox 5 and the opportunities you've had with Fernando and what you're going to have with him already, I described it yesterday as watching Ohtani at batting practice. Every camera phone, your photographer, everybody was just filming Fernando, which is unique because he's not the starter, but everybody knows all the fans are coming out, coming up here. They're going to all want to see Fernando, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He's the number one pick overall. He's the future face of the franchise. But, man, he draws a crowd, doesn't he?
He does, and, it comes with the territory, as you said, of being the number one overall pick. And he seems to be up for that. Here's somebody who has kind of been in the spotlight over these last 12 months. First on a smaller scale at Indiana until that story got bigger and became a national story. And then since then, it's exploded. And there's a comfort level with him in doing that. Sometimes players don't really react as well to that, and it impacts what they do on the football side. I don't see that happening with him. I really think that he understands where the Raiders want to go with this as they're going through this training camp. He understands that more than likely Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter week one unless the coaching staff makes a different decision. And he said today to the media in his press conference after practice that, his job is to go out and compete every day and help the team win. And if that's at this time as the number 2 quarterback, then that's what he's going to do.
Kevin Bollinger's our guest. On the defensive side, I think Massa's the young cornerback out of Cal has flashed already. Teron Johnson played in a lot of big games for Buffalo. I'd like to see him stay on the field. I think Jeremy Chin is an immovable object. He doesn't have to worry about competition. He's going to start. I don't know if the same could be said about Isaiah Palomal. And Eric Stokes with that contract extension, he's a pure starter. He's going to be good. So I don't see, Kevin, I know there's going to be great competition, but with the linebackers that were brought in, the starters, who we can all project to be the starters on the defensive line, I'm only looking at really two spots in the secondary, one safety position and the other side corner to Eric Stokes, where there should be some intense competition on defense. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's right, and there's some flexibility in Rob Leonard's defense here, and I think that it's important when you look at competition too, because there are going to be some guys rotating in and out of there that are still going to get some significant roles with this team, and I like the way that the linebacker group is developed. We know they're going to be all right up front on the defensive line, but it's really going to be that back end that's going to be the big question mark that people are going to keep their eyes on. Stokes looks great. He came into camp in really good shape. He seemed relaxed today. He met with the media as well, and with a new contract comes the confidence that he's the guy there in that backfield to help kind of take that next step as the leadership role with the Raiders back there. So let the other battles begin, and then let's see what they do with some of those flex positions that's going to maybe have guys put in different spots that they're not used to as much, but could have a chance to excel.
Wrapping up with Kevin Bolinger from Fox 5. So overall here, your coverage, you got a good, unique opportunity for you. You get a lot of these interviews first for your broadcast, your preseason broadcast. You've been doing this really good for a long time. Does it feel different? Because this organization and the fan base, which I'm a part of, should have been farther along. There shouldn't have been this many resets, and now there's another reset. But everybody seems to be okay with it now. They feel like this is the staff that makes the most sense, even though some liked Pete Carroll, some didn't love the hire. Most didn't like the Josh McDaniels hire. Everybody loved Gruden. People believed in Bisaccia. And I think a lot of people believe that Antonio Pierce deserved to go from interim because the team played hard and beat Kansas City to have the head coaching position just for the short term. But I think it feels different now because I don't think the fans are coming down on the coach in training camp like they have in years past.
I agree, and I think it starts at the top. I think that it started when Mark Davis made the statement about John Spytek and Tom Brady having control of the football operations. And I think that there's a comfort level with a lot of the fan base and certainly internally here at the Raiders headquarters with John Spytek and the decisions that he's made in terms of creating this roster for the now and also looking ahead to the future, and then the hiring of Klint Kubiak with the staff below him that they've done. The Raiders are making a significant effort to bring in good football people, but also certain types of people who are just flat out good people that are going to put their head down and work. And I think that, we're starting to see a little bit of the progress from that. And if they're able to stick with this group, I certainly think that there could be big things in the future coming for the Silver and Black.
Yes. Kevin is kind enough to join us every other week on Thursdays if we can do it in this slot here. He's a big, important part of what I try to do here with credibility, insiders, big names here in town. And I know you're wrapping up the summer, but not really. You got some road trips and some miles in front of you, and then it hits the ground running. And for Fox 5, you kind of know the schedule, right? There's no Monday games. There's no Thursday games. We know where we're going to be every Sunday at 105 and 125.
Yeah, it's kind of set up with unusual and really a crime that the Raiders do not have a primetime game on the schedule. But at least everybody knows they can set their Sundays aside. And hopefully the Raiders are good enough that maybe they get flexed into one of those primetime games later in the season. But we know also that those preseason games are all slotted at the same time, Thursday at 5 o'clock, 3 consecutive Thursdays. So from a fan standpoint, you kind of have your appointment viewing. You can tell your significant other if you need to that this is the time that's set aside on these days, and then here we go with football.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to see you. I'll see you out there again tomorrow.
All right, thanks, JT.
Kevin Bolinger, Fox 5. Very good guy. I consider him a friend. He's a guy I trust. You put him on the radio, he's a straight shooter. That's what we're putting on. We want people to come in here, be honest, transparent, what they think of the team. That's what they're able to do. So when we come back, we'll set up our next hour, which will be led by Barry Sims. Hour number 2 is Barry Sims and the Fernando Mendoza podium session, which was really good. I mean, got to say this. Max Crosby, Kirk Cousins, John Spytek on the radio with our morning show. Everybody knocking it out of the park the first 2 days of camp. Brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group, brotherswin.com.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
Of course. Like I said, he sticks. I think it's pretty glaring in individual, his natural talent. And it's fun to see him progress. We're just working along. Yeah, he's an exciting prospect.
That's Robbie Leonard, the defensive coordinator on McCoy, who is a #1 talent but was taken in the 4th round. So what do you want to do with him? I don't know. It's all going to be on how his knee holds up and how he recovers after practice. This is a different era of football, ladies and gentlemen. This is not 1975, where the Raiders went to camp and had 2-a-days in pads every day. So, how did Biletnikoff and Villapiano and Art Shell do every day going in pads and doing 2-a-days? They don't do that anymore. So how do you judge a player and how do you get him back healthy again? Or if he's healthy, make sure he remains healthy. So let me get this straight. They don't practice with pads the majority of the time. They're done with practice. They lift weights. They shouldn't get injured doing that. Then they get a massage. They get treatment or whatever they're going to do. They get a great meal provided by Mark Davis. Great food, great nutrition. They go to meetings, whatever they want after the meeting. They get a snack. They get a protein shake, whatever they want. Then they go home. So they're not doing double 2-a-days in pads where they're beating their head up against someone else. So when you hear they're going to try to get a guy right, what does that mean? I don't know. They're just hoping that they bring him along properly where there's not too much wear and tear on his body at practice so he'll be ready to play in games. The thing that I struggle with the most, and I struggle with this, is growing up with old school football. I grew up in a time, I think the greatest era of football ever was the 70s, not the 80s, 90s, and in this millennium where there's been some great football. Tom Brady, even pre-Joe Montana. I go back to the 70s with the Raiders, the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, all the great teams that played back in that era. The Vikings were very good, and the physicality of football and the legends that played. Now, you might think the best era was the 90s. I don't know. Lawrence Taylor was pretty good in the 80s into the 90s. But I like old school football because I like the game better. It was more physical, more tackling, more aggression, more violence. They've taken the foot out of football. The only thing that matters now are punts. The kicking game doesn't matter much unless you got a kicker like the Tokyo Toe who can make a 63-yarder. You better have a kicker that can make a 60-yarder blindfolded because they can all make 60-yarders blindfolded. But, special teams is not what it used to be. Everybody, I love special teams. It's such an important part of the game. Really? They're kicking the ball off and they're not tackling. They're in a phone booth. It could hurt you if your special teams stink, which it did at times around here recently. It could hurt you. But if you got good special teams, you should be able to survive. But the game's changed a lot. And has it been for the better? It's safer. It's safer, that's for sure. It's much safer. That hour flew by. Thanks again to Grimaldi's. They're our sponsor tomorrow with Remy Martin. Remy Martin's got the Mount Gay rum, which is fantastic. They are really telling me it's going to be a winner here in town. The Mount Gay Silver Rum, and there will be several silver and black rum cocktails that'll blow you away. Maybe you can try one tomorrow at Grimaldi's, noon to 2. We'll be at Eastern.
It's the JT the Brick Show.
We didn't want to move the chains. We wanted touchdowns. We wanted the big play, the quick strike. We're going to take what we want.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
These are the greatest athletes in the world. They're like artists.
Here's JT the Brick.
JT with you as we continue here. Hour number 2 of the broadcast. Fernando Mendoza spoke, and we're going to play that coming up here in a little bit. Keep promoting tomorrow. I'll be at Grimaldi's on Eastern, the best pizza I've ever had. If you're in Vegas, you should come join me. And I think that'd be great. And we'd have a really good time if you came out and was there. It's going to be a good crew. We're going to have a really good crew there. We're excited about that. And come on by and have some good pizza. Also, Remy Martin will be pouring some signature cocktails. So I'm excited about this. And you know, it's cool. It's cool to get out on the road here, but it's hot. So we'll make sure the air conditioning is great. Everybody will have a good time. Everyone will feel good, and we'll get a chance to see each other and do that. So if you get a chance tomorrow in Vegas, tell your friends, noon to 2, Grimaldi's on Eastern. You can't miss it. There's 4 locations here in the Valley, and they are all fantastic there. Barry Sims is one of the people that I've met who has been with the Raiders and had a really nice career. I mean, Barry played a lot of games. In his NFL career, Barry played in 174 games, and he started 141. So that's a lot of games. Started in the Super Bowl for the Raiders, you know, was a part of a leading rushing attack when the Raiders led the NFL in rushing. How would you like to get back to that? How would you like to do that down the road? And then in total offense one year, led the league. So when you look at, you know, experiences with this team, we don't have to go that far back, but it's been about 20 years and a little bit longer than that, where the Raiders put out a team on the field that could be number 1 in rushing. You know, Rich Gannon won an MVP. That's what this team is trying to get to. That's what this team is trying to get to along the way. Have a category that's going to lead the league in something. Not lead the league in, you know, safeties knocking balls down because you're on the field all day. We're talking about lead the league in rushing yards, lead the league in sacks, lead the league in total offense, something to that degree. And, you know, I'm excited to see what he can do, what this team could do with Ashton Genty. It's going to be interesting. So, silver and black since 69 on hold here. Let me get him up. What's your name, sir?
Hi, JT. My name's Chip. How are you?
Good, Chip. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Well, I was just wanting to call and thank the greats when they pass. I had an opportunity to escort Junior Seau in Japan in 1990 on a youth tour for the Air Force's military youth.
Okay.
And he was such a special individual. And when you mentioned his name, I just wanted to call and tell you how appreciative I am when you bring up the greats, whether they're Raiders or not. And that it's great. I mean, the 70s, as you said, they were special.
Yeah, Junior Seau was a special player. He was a really big rival of the Raiders. And when Junior came into Oakland in front of the black hole, he would flip off the black hole. The black hole would flip him off. I mean, it got intense. And Junior was such a good player that Junior loved playing in Oakland. And then when the Raider fans went to San Diego and took over Jack Murphy and Qualcomm when Junior was there, that was a blistering crowd that went nuts because they just loved that rivalry that you remember.
That's awesome.
All right, my friend.
Well,
I appreciate you. Thank you very much for calling in. Wow, we'll get these phone calls going. 702-365-9200. Connor, do we have Barry yet? Do we have him here? And I think we're going to get him up momentarily, and we'll get rolling here. We do have him. Are you saying yes? There he is, my good friend. As I introduce him, there's not many people that I care much more about when it comes to my life with the Raiders than Barry and his wife, Shay. They become great friends with my wife and my family. And God, Barry, before I was getting ready to talk to you, you played 174 games. You started 141. That's pretty heavy to me, man. You were a durable guy. Is that part of your legacy that you were available to play?
I think, yeah. Hey, good to see you, JT.
Yes.
Yeah, that and just being consistent, like being available and being consistent, that was kind of what I was known for. Wasn't missing a lot of games.
Yeah, that was really important. Where'd you get that from? I know your great college career, but, you also the Scottish Claymores and the Raiders and the 49ers, Park City in high school, Utah, where you had this great Hall of Fame career. Was that instilled by your dad, your family? Like, who taught you how to get up every day and prepare and to be consistent for everyone in your life?
I take, my dad was my hero, and, seeing him get up and going every day and working to provide, I'd never want to let him down. And he was like my biggest fan too. So my biggest supporter, and really helped me navigate. A lot of viewers don't know I tore up my knee in the Hula Bowl All-Star game coming out of college, and so I was literally out of football for 2 years, undrafted, and then thankfully I was able to get into Europe and play for Scottish Claymores, and that really propelled my career moving forward.
Yeah, how did Mr. Davis find you? I mean, what was that story from the Scottish Claymores, where I knew you played at a high level, and to find your way back into the NFL? That must have been nerve-wracking at the time. Was someone helping you get the tape out, or were you counting on the team to get the tape out for you for the NFL? We've really never talked about that.
Yeah, it goes back to Mike Lombardi and Chuck Banker, who was a great personnel guy in this league, and they kind of got my name out a little bit. And Al always credited Mike Lombardi with finding me and discovering me. So, I give Mike a lot of credit for that. And really, once I got to the Raiders, I mean, I would have done anything to make the team, and they had drafted Matt Stinchcomb that year and Mo Collins the year before at left tackle. And, I was pretty much just looking to hopefully make a practice squad and, help develop those guys. And fortunately for me, unfortunately for Matt, he was injured in training camp, and it kind of gave me a chance to play left tackle, which I had never done before. And it kind of just snowballed from there.
Barry Sims is our guest. We're talking about Raiders and their signature moment. We'll get to that momentarily. So getting back to that, I started with the Raiders in 98. You came in 99. So I was there, and that was the beginning for me. And did you realize when you jumped in at left tackle with your other teammates, but also on the other side of the ball, and the veterans that Gruden and then Callahan were able to develop on that Super Bowl run? I mean, you had legends in that locker room. What type of influence did those players have on you?
Well, it was amazing. It started, I think, just initially for me, when I came in as an undrafted free agent, and Darrell Russell really, our defensive tackle really, he saw me. He was like, hey, look at what, he kind of gave me some advice of like, look at what those guys are doing, see how they're doing this and that, and that really kind of helped me. And so then from there, I kind of like attached myself to Steve Wisniewski and just really kind of tried to do everything he could do. I mean, I was pretty green. I really didn't know a lot about professional football as far as, I was just a fan, but I didn't really know about the ins and outs of it. And so, getting around the veteran guys and seeing what they do every day and how they were able to stick around, that was what was important to me.
Barry Sims joins us. And then talk about the relationship you built with Lincoln Kennedy. I know how tight you are with Lincoln and what Lincoln means to you, and obviously what you mean to Lincoln. We've had a cigar and talked about that. That's another teammate that you built a lifelong relationship with.
Yeah, we, once I kind of started, showing some potential of being a player, Lincoln kind of took me under his wings a little bit. And, I was kind of just the little boy in the room of a whole bunch of men, what it felt like. And so, Lincoln's great. He was kind of like the captain of the O-line for us. And as I got further along into being a player and really a more of an equal to those guys and a peer, that's kind of when our relationships just took off.
One more player I wanted to ask you about, because you had a front row seat to Gannon. How demanding was Gannon to you and everybody else? You hear the stories about the speeches in the locker room, wanting certain players, better players, to come in after he saw the team after 1 year. And, I mean, you're in a pretty tough position. You're playing left tackle to Rich Gannon, who wins the MVP. You had a lot to do with that. How demanding was Gannon?
The funny thing is, yeah, when I came to visit the Raiders out of Scotland, and it was the same year Rich was coming in '99, and they're like, they were real excited. We got Rich Gannon to be a quarterback this year, and I'm kind of thinking, like, Rich Gannon, the Kansas City guy. Like, I really didn't know much, like I said, about football, so I'm like, okay, Rich Gannon. First time I was in the huddle with them, and I could see how his command of the huddle, and like him talking about like a coach about what players should be doing, and this and that, and adjustments on the field. I just expected all NFL quarterbacks were like that, since he was really the first one that I had been around. And that's not the case. They're not a lot like that. But Rich was just amazing. He would yell at the receivers if they ran the wrong route or didn't do something they were supposed to do. And same thing for the O-line. He'd kind of get on us if he felt a lot of pressure. So it was great. He holds guys accountable, but he expects you to do the same for him. And that's what any great leader would do. Absolutely.
Barry Sims, great friend, is our guest. So as I reached out to you, I asked you about your signature moment. What do you believe is that signature moment for you personally, that you remember, your proudest moment as a Raider, that moment that maybe our audience doesn't know about that you'd like to share with us?
I think the one that just stands out the most, because most people still talk about it, is my first start at left tackle. My rookie season, it was probably like the fourth or fifth game. I got a little bit of playing time the week before because Mo was playing left tackle, Mo Collins, and he got hurt, so I finished the game for him. And then there was a little bit of question marks as to what's going to happen the next week, and we were playing at Buffalo against it would be my matchup was against Bruce Smith, and they're like, well, you got it, let's go. And so worked really hard all week. I was really trying to block out any kind of nerves or anything like that. Just I tend to I don't like to be nervous, and so I was especially early in the week, but really focused in, and ended up we started the game out, and it was an awesome game. We ended up over 200 yards rushing. I don't remember the final score or anything like that, but we beat them, and it felt great. It was awesome to be a part of that, and I couldn't have done it without Steve Wisniewski. He was my left guard and at the time, and he really helped me on the inside a little bit, and helped me with my confidence for that.
Wow. I mean, what was that like, going to bed that week knowing you're going up against Bruce Smith? I mean, did they set protection for you to try to give you help with someone, a chip on the back end or a tight end? Or was that just throwing you to the wolves and said, look, this is your chance, go do it? And obviously you had a pretty good game.
Yeah, it was good. What they ended up doing is, they played a 3-4 up there, so it really Steve Wisniewski was there for me on my inside, and really we were able to just kind of work Bruce inside out all the way out, and I didn't really have to worry about getting beat inside too much. So it was cool, man. It was, when I got done, there were so many messages in my phone, and just people were so proud because I was out of football for 2 years, and to have that opportunity to redeem myself was great.
That is great, man. I'm happy. I've been having such a fun time doing this signature thing with, asking guys like you, what was your moment? And I'm getting these answers. Romo told me yesterday that it was signing the contract. I thought he was going to give me some tackle or some game. He goes, no. When no one believed in me and I went upstairs to sign my contract in Alameda, he said that's when everything changed for him, which was really cool. But for you to say Bruce Smith and Frank Hawkins talked about a game he had with the Cowboys, and I'll tell you, the more you get away from the game and the more respect Raider fans have for you because of your resume, how many games you played, how consistent, winning an AFC championship game, starting in the Super Bowl, all the relationships you made along the way. And then you ended your career with the 49ers. And I know that had to be good for your family to stay in the Bay Area instead of getting shipped to the Jets or, going to Carolina or something like that. What was that transition like for you to stay in the Bay but go over to the Niners after your Raider career?
At first it was tough. I'll be honest with you. It was tough because I'm a Raider at heart, and to go across the Bay was tricky. But when I went and visited other teams, I went and looked at New England and the Ravens, and you mentioned Carolina and the Rams, and like when it came down to it, there was just better to stay in my house. And actually the Niners were cool, and they ended up they were the highest paid going into it, so it was like a no-brainer. But I loved being over there. It was really cool. At first it was hard, but I got some great friends, lifelong friends from there as well. But one thing I did want to mention was you mentioned Romo, and I always whenever anybody talks about Romo, I always say that he was the best teammate I ever had, because he really taught me how to take care of my body, how to, recover after games, and how to be available. Like, when I said before that, being available and being consistent, those were like things I looked at. I mean, Bill taught me how to take care of my body after games to where I wasn't sore, from chiropractic, stretching, massage, and all those things, and nutrition. And, I always want to give him his props whenever I can. Well,
that's really nice. I mean, to say that as a teammate, that's the highest honor. So we'll see you here for Alumni Weekend coming up here in a couple of weeks, right?
Yep, we'll be there. All
right, look forward to seeing you and Shea. Always great, Barry. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, JT. Have a good one, buddy.
You do too. Barry Sims, everybody. So enjoyable to talk to him. Oh, my God. What's just such a good guy. Because I remember when you looked at that offensive line with Lincoln Kennedy and Mo Collins and all the players that they had there, and Barrett Robbins, what a great player he was. Barry was kind of like the unsung guy. And not a lot of people were talking about Barry all the time, right? They would just like, oh, Barry's, it's them, or Barry's good. But no, Barry was better than good. And I wanted to get Barry on, too, because I think the conversation was about how he was available. And there haven't been guys around here lately who have been available. Colt Miller is a great player when available. He looks really good at camp. He's got to be available. Jackson Powers Johnson has got to be available. Like, it can't be, well, he's dinged up with this or that. Now, God forbid you get hurt. You can't do anything about it. But when you take a look at certain players, Barry Sims, you could count on him. And the guy went up against Bruce Smith and held his own and had a great game against him. Bruce Smith! Whenever I interview offensive linemen, I always ask them, who's the best player you ever went up against? And most of them either tell me, the offensive guys, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, if I go back, Lawrence Taylor, someone that was in front of him. Steve Wisniewski was as good as anybody. But for Barry Sims, and then after Barry retired, he went to the 49ers and we kept in touch. His wife and my wife are decent friends. And then he started coming back. So every time the Bolitnikovs would ask Barry, hey, can you come back for the crab feed or the golf tournament? Yes. So then Barry would be back for Alumni Weekend. So when we were up in Napa, my wife and his wife, we'd go to a vineyard. We'd go hang out, have a little bit of time together, and then see Barry back in the hotel. And really built a nice friendship. His friendship to me as a Raider is one that I value in all of them. I mean, near the top. George Atkinson, David Humm, the impacts that those people had on my life, I could never thank them. I could never repay them, and some of them aren't here anymore, and I really miss them. And Morris Bradshaw was pretty much on my Mount Rushmore for relationships. When you have relationships with people, you want to keep them going. Sometimes in sports, those relationships ends. It didn't end with Barry. 702-365-9200. I love a show like today. We've already had 3 interviews, right? Jarrett Bell from USA Today, Kevin Bolinger, Barry Sims. I got open lines if you want to get in, comment on any of that. 702-365-9200. We welcome in the Black Hole Denver chapter. You got to be tough to be in the Black Hole in Denver. Okay, if you're going to be a member of the Black Hole in Denver, you got to be a tough guy because those Bronco fans, man, they'll come after you. So I definitely want to thank Juan Lopez, one of our bricklayers live on YouTube, JT the Brick YT. He said, "Good afternoon from the Black Hole, Denver." Wow, that's like a scene from Game of Thrones when you have to go to the Riverlands and all of a sudden you're going through the forest and you're looking over and there's dragons over and you're like, how am I going to get to the castle? Well, good luck, man. You better need the Black Hole in Denver to get you to the castle. If you're rolling around Denver and you're a Raider fan, you better be in the Black Hole or you got no chance. 702-365-9200. I cannot wait to hear Fernando. I mean, it's like when an album comes out. You're like, I want to hear that album. Every time Fernando speaks, I will play it. Make that a T-shirt. When Fernando speaks, we play it. Coming up next on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Fletcher Azul Tequila. Oh, no. My wife makes a mean new Fletcher Azul margarita. Little salt on the rim. Oh, the Reposado, the Blanco. Beautiful experience in my backyard. This Fletcher Azul tequila just floats beautifully as my wife makes a signature margarita.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by M Resort Spa and Casino, the official hotel of the Las Vegas Raiders.
I definitely feel like he's getting more comfortable. He's going through his reads, and he's really getting the ball out quicker, so that's really good to see from him.
That is Ashton Genty talking about Fernando Mendoza. I think that it's going to be great. Once Mendoza gets in there, we have no idea when Mendoza is going to start. So everybody slow your roll on that. Kirk Cousins was made the starter. He'll keep the starting position unless he is absolutely outplayed by Fernando, which I doubt that's capable. I doubt it because Kirk Cousins knows the playbook better. He's a veteran, and normally you don't screw up that badly in the preseason, right? You don't screw up. You know, Kirk Cousins ain't going to fall on his face in preseason games, let alone a practice. So I would think he'd hold on to that starting job until Fernando is ready to go. So Fernando, after practice today, met the media at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. Here it is.
Just sure your first training camp practice, but even today, just seemed improved even from the day one. Did it feel that way? Just more comfortable, maybe birds?
Yeah, I was telling some of the other quarterbacks this. You know, when it was rookie mini camp and OTAs, you know, it happens very quick. However, now in training camp, I truly feel like a member of the team rather than a new rookie on the scene. Especially I feel like a lot of the rookies feel that way too. Having the summer to digest the playbook, get extra meeting time, and every day it's more and more reps that I get. I feel like the entire team improves. The entire team improves every single rep we get, so the more experience we put out there on the field, the more beneficial for everybody.
What specifically did you take from those practices that helped you this week?
Coach Sullivan had me do a great exercise where he had me watch every single play of my OTAs, detail it on what are the problems of that play, and kind of rate my timing, accuracy, footwork, progression. And through that, I was able to see some common themes and common mishaps I would have on certain concepts. So I was able to reflect on them throughout the summer, walk through them, and then now when I'm here in training camp, I'm able to, when I feel those urges come up, I'm able to kill them and make the right play, whether that's take a calculated shot down the field, whether that's taking a check down, or whether that's throwing the ball away.
Yesterday, Andrew Tinoco said that your biggest place of improvement was your command of the offense. Where do you see that you have improved the most?
I believe with comfortability and with also not just knowing the scheme, but also knowing the guys better and creating a better relationship with them, the command it levels up. And the command comes from the offensive line telling me, hey, you need to be louder in the huddle. We need to hear a better cadence. And I'm learning a lot from those guys, whether it's the offensive line, running backs, tight ends, or receivers. Those veteran guys who are year two and beyond, them giving me feedback, and and then we're all coming together, and then they're helping my command, but I'm really taking part of their command.
You seemed like you played super confident today. What's changed for you mentally since rookie minicamp?
Yeah, I believe that when you have a better understanding of the schematics and the scheme of why you're calling the play, what the play is. You're able to be more comfortable and calm, especially in OTAs. All the rookies are doing their best to learn the playbook. But when we have this big summer break to actually dive in the playbook and understand the ins and outs of it, it gives you more chance to actually read the defense. And when you're able to read the defense and know the plays like the back of your hand, you're able to be more calm, comfortable. You know where your hot routes are. I still need to improve on my protection intelligence and my checks there, but creating a larger and better understanding of the schematics has helped me calm down, know where my outs are, and just be more confident in general.
There's been a lot of conversations about under center. How have you felt that you've continued to grow as an under center quarterback?
I feel like I've grown a lot. I've gotten a lot of snaps and a lot of extra snaps with the centers, and spent a lot of time with them on and off the field. Whether it's Trey, Jordan, Will, and of course Tyler. All those guys have been fantastic teammates, and they've been fantastic with me. Not having a lot of under center experience, being willing to get 5-10 extra snaps, and so that has helped me a lot, and being more comfortable rather than having to worry about getting the snap, especially when it was early on, like, oh man, 50% of this play, like I need to get the snap or else the play doesn't go, to then, okay, I'm more comfortable. I believe in my preparation and believe in the preparation the other centers have done as well. I feel comfortable. Let me look at the defense. Let me digest my process and system.
During that break, how did you make sure that when you were learning just the playbook and all that you retained that information as you're getting ready for training camp?
I've learned a lot, especially from the coaches and the quarterbacks in the room, the way that Kirk and Aiden, the intellect that they have, and the way, especially that Kirk, the way that he diagrams and the way that he draws out plays and sorts them in different groups, whether it's play actions, bad hot plays, 3x1 level concepts, whatever it is, the way he groups them, and kind of you see the Kubiak system, which is a fantastic system, mold together. It gave me a better understanding, and I know the other rookies, a better understanding of the why behind the offense, why I run this play, and we're complementing it with this. So it was a good moment. I still have a long way to go. I feel more comfortable, but I am nowhere near where I need to be, especially with learning the playbook, and I still need to go a lot longer and attack the playbook harder. So I'm still ways away, but I feel like I'm more comfortable from day 2, especially from day 1.
Today's the most I've seen you correct guys. Not a jerk, just putting them in the right spots. Is that just familiarity with the playbook that now that you know it, you can help some other guys more?
Yeah, and I think it also stems with the relationship everybody has with each other, especially you see OTAs and day 1, and even sometimes today in day 2. I mean, it's a very small sample size being one day, but there's a lot of times that, like I said, the offensive line would correct me, the running backs, the tight ends, receivers, they would help put me in place, and so it's our relationship that we have, that dynamic relationship where we are able to hold each other accountable, but not in a way of being demeaning or in a negative light, in a positive, hey, we want to move we want to move the ball and move the chains. Hey, this is what I heard. Hey, maybe it's some confusion. Let's clear it up on both ends.
It's one thing to kind of be around Max Crosby and see him on film and talk to him in the hallway, but how much different is it to now see him at practice on the sideline or go up against him?
To be able to go up against him, I haven't actually had a rep against him, thankfully, but he's a fantastic competitor, and the intellect that he's been able to give me and the advice, because everyone's seen how much he's grown from his rookie year to now being the all-pro superstar that he is, the little bits of wisdom, and I understand that defensive end and quarterback are two different positions, but the mentality of attacking and being a leader of the team and growing within your career are the same. And so I really look up to him, and any bits of advice that he's given me, I've taken to heart, and I really do appreciate his leadership, not only on the defense, but on the offense and the special teams, has benefited me a lot.
Both you and Kirk have talked about competing with each other and not against each other. Can you just talk about the mindset that it takes to, go into a battle and go up against the opponent without like an ill will for who you're competing against?
Yeah, I believe that the entire quarterback room is competing with each other. We're all trying to bring each other's standard up, whether it's Aiden, Jacob, Kirk, or me. We're all trying to bring each other's standards up. And for me, it's only day 2 training camp. And I believe we all trust what Coach Kubiak, Coach Sunoco, and Coach Sullivan, the decision they make. And I'm focused on just the next rep. How can I get better? There's some mistakes I made out there today that I want to improve for the next time. And I'm going to do that by asking the coaches, by asking Kirk, by asking Aiden, by asking Jacob, and by being able to ask those veteran leaders in the room. I think it's a beautiful thing that we're all pushing each other's standard up.
You mentioned Kubiak and his offense, and it's awesome. What is it that stands out to you about that offense?
I think the balance of the offense, and as a quarterback, this is pretty basic, but the pass is sexy, but I believe that the outside zone scheme and schematics of the run that comes from, the Shanahan tree is a great system, and it really complements off each other. It lets the offensive line and their talents shine. It lets the running backs and their talents shine, and at the end of the day, the game is built on the run.
You mentioned learning from Kirk a lot, especially with this franchise trying to build a sustainable future. How important is it for you and your own growth that you aren't the guy that needs to turn things around right away week one, that you can learn at your own pace and then eventually take over the reins when you win that battle?
Yeah, my opinion on that is I don't ever think there's one guy. It's a collective effort and it's a whole team. Being implemented and in this culture has been an amazing experience. Everyone on the team. We have so many great leaders across the offense, defense that have heightened the sense of urgency, and that starts with Coach Kubiak. So I'm taking a following role right now with those veteran leaders, and I'm just trying to do my part, focus on the next rep, and do everything I possibly can to prepare myself to be the best asset I can for my team. And whatever decision is made at the end, that's fantastic, and I'm all for it. I just want the team to win. So that's where I'm at. But I believe that we have so many great players on the team, and there's a heightened sense of urgency.
Hey, Fernando, can you shed some light on what the difference is from being in a college environment to an NFL environment? And maybe you touched on it when you talked about all the veterans, but in your words, what's the comparison?
Well, there's the on-field and there's the off-field. The on-field, the margins are smaller and the standards are higher, although Coach Signetti held a very, very high standard, especially in the quarterback room at Indiana. But just the margins are smaller because, the NFL, I would say, across the league is a little bit more of an even dynamic and equilibrium rather than college, where you kind of get some disparity sometimes. And being able to connect with, for example, Kirk's 37 years old and I'm 22. So be able to connect with Kirk on and off the field is a different relationship than, let's say, me and a sophomore receiver, Charlie Becker, who's, I'm 22 and he's 20. So it's a lot different, but I feel like the entire team has embraced that challenge and that opportunity, and if anything, it's a benefit and it's a positive thing because I'm able to learn as a rookie, where all the rookies are able to learn from the veteran players like Kirk, like Max, like Quay. I mean, all those, and like Tyler Linderbaum, like all those guys who have all that fantastic wisdom and advice and have had the highs of their career and, although very little lows in their career as well, being able to learn from that and be able to help us accelerate our development.
Last question. So many moments that attributed to your growth, but is there a specific one that you continue to reflect on that gave you the biggest push?
In the NFL?
So far, yeah.
In the NFL. I think it comes from the standard that Coach Kubiak, Coach Sunoco, and Coach Sullivan demand, especially in OTAs. There are, maybe one or two practices or two reps that I thought, hey, this was a really, really good rep. And then we get in the film room, and maybe it might have, slid past in college, but we get in the film room, and you get torn apart because of a small detail, but then you end up realizing when you watch the game film and you talk to the veterans that, hey, in the game the margins are only even smaller, and in reality when you thought that was a great ball, it's really a 50-50 ball because you didn't throw on the correct timing. And so be able to learn from that and have, honestly, frustrations with my own play, and has helped my growth, has helped new neurological pathways form, because it creates that pressure and that positive pressure and that positive stress in order to grow and learn as a quarterback.
All right, that was Fernando from earlier today. And that's brought to you by M-Ride, the way to get to Allegiant Stadium, period. That's how my wife gets to games. That's how you should get to your game. You're going to AC/DC, you're going to a concert, you're going to a big event. M-Ride, proud partner of our show. So I've never heard a rookie talk like that. I've never heard a rookie speak that way. Never. And I've seen them all. And I've heard them all talk. And if it wasn't the team I'm covering, it's another team, and you heard the podium sessions of a young Peyton Manning or whoever it was. No one has ever sounded like Fernando Mendoza. No one's been that sharp, that detailed, that good at putting words together. Now, you got to hope it works on the field. You got to hope he develops into being a really good quarterback. But what he's doing now is very important to the branding of being a super quarterback potentially. We all agree that he has the skill set. How could you not? He won the Heisman Trophy in the national championship. We know he has the size and strength. We know he has the book smarts, right? Getting the engineering degree at Cal. And Connor, you made an interesting point about him moving on to Indiana and leaving Cal about what he wanted to do. He's just not like your typical kid who wanted to get into the portal like most of these guys do.
Yeah, you see all the time these days where kids want to go in the portal because, hey, maybe I didn't get the playing time I was promised, or I want to go in the portal and see what the NIL money is like in today's day. Well, Fernando had a really good quote when he was talking about going into the portal and wanting to go to Indiana. It was because of Coach Curt Cignetti and what he's done with that pro-style offense. He said, I didn't go there because it was a bigger school. I didn't go there because it was an NIL. He says, I went there to become a better pro-style quarterback, and the rest of the cards just happened to fall in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a very calculated move. Who the hell transfers to Indiana to play quarterback? Goes to Indiana where Drew Brees went to Purdue, Aiden O'Connell went to Purdue. You know, there's good quarterbacks at Purdue. And that would have been a little bit bizarre. He went to Indiana because of Curt Cignetti and the opportunity to play for him. And he was sold on that being something that would upgrade his ability to be great. And now the Raiders get him. And there's a piece of audio that we'll play tomorrow from Tom Brady. He sat down on a British show. I think it was a British sports show. And they asked him why. And he went on to talk about the fact that his development after the Heisman Trophy and the national championship is what impressed him the most. I mean, this kid is something special, and he's going to handle it well. Now, every Raider fan that I talk to doesn't want to see him on the bench for 6, 7, 8, 9 games. They want to see him a little bit earlier. And that will be one of our big topics all season long. All season long. I plan on interviewing the coach. They plan on me interviewing the coach. And if Kirk Cousins is the starter, he's the starter. I'm not going into my weekly sit-down with the head coach asking when Mendoza's going to play. That's disrespectful to the coach in the 10 minutes he gives us. The coach will tell us when Mendoza's going to play. He doesn't have to be needled on it and be told. You know, everybody was at that podium session today is asking Fernando, how's he coming along, all of that. Well, you've already heard Klint Kubiak. Klint Kubiak's not going to go to the podium every day and take Fernando questions about playing. He'll take Fernando questions on his development. Well, he's getting better, he's doing this, but it's very uncomfortable if you're in the media to ask a coach when someone's going to play when he's not playing. The coaches make the decision when someone's going to start or when a player's going to go to the bench. And the coach will tell you that right before they do it or right after. They don't run that by the media as a trial balloon to say, hey, man, what are you going to do? So that they don't do that way. Raider Dave. We got Raider Dave up here again. How are you, Dave?
Hey, pretty good, man. I am so glad that you pointed out that in your experience, the vast years of it, you haven't heard a quarterback talk like that. I thought that was surprising to me, but I'm just me. I don't listen to all this stuff for the last 25 years. And it just shows that not only has he got what it takes for this coaching staff to realize that he's the real deal, but there's so many other new things that are going on there in the first 2 days of practice, how Kubiak is running it, how these coaches are gelling with the players, how the players are gelling with the system. I'm just really happy to hear, and I hope they don't shut him down, because I love hearing this kind of honesty from this kind of character. He's a champion, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, and I'm just so darn glad he's a Raider.
Well, how are you handling this, Dave? You do, you're involved pretty heavily here. Where are you? I forgot. You might have told me already, but do you want him week 1? Do you want him week 8? You want him to play. When would you like to see that?
Well, what I had said was I thought that if he did a great job during the scrimmage, that would be the chance for him to supplant and convince everybody that he can go ahead and handle this offense against one of the best front fours in the league. And I don't know what happens if Mendoza doesn't start and the Raiders go 3-0, then what happens? Are we going to go 3-3, 3-5? When does it actually come about? But I like the experience and the weaker opponents, including the Chargers, the weaker opponents that the season starts with. And I really think that, in my consideration, that has to be a big consideration, because there's no gentler way that we could ever imagine Mendoza starting unless we ended up getting the Titans or something else in one of the first 3. But, the Chargers have had some real hurt on their defensive line. So I just don't think that this is going to be one of those games where all of Raider Nation shows up to the only LA game that they've got to show up at, and we flood the stands and lose the game. I really think that the Raiders have a great opportunity to have an excellent run game and go 3-0. And I don't know if it matters which quarterback starts, but I think the change can happen that week against the Texans.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. It could happen then. It could happen against the Jets. I'll be going back to the Jet game this year. Excited about that. Whenever he plays, it's going to be because he has to play due to an injury, which we don't want to see, or it's going to be because Kirk Cousins isn't winning and they're going to make the change. And I'd like to see Kirk Cousins win. So it's a tough spot. This is not an easy decision, but most number 1 overall picks play. We're brought to you by Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. We were talking about a Heisman. How about a Heisman winner in Charles, who brings his legacy to his amazing Intercept wine, and Woodson Bourbon Whiskey, proud partner of our show.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by the DeCasta Verde Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, call 702-222-9999.
What have you seen in this guy, you thought? And I'm sure there's other people involved in the decision making. Sure. But is there one thing you looked at, you went, let's go for this kid?
It was great, and I think we're very fortunate on our team to have that first overall pick this year. I think over the scouting process since the college season ended, he did an incredible job of making it very clear to everyone that he was the best prospect for the next level. Yes. And certainly we're at a place on our team where we needed a quarterback. So he was the most developed prospect and the best quarterback this year. It was very natural for us to select him.
That was Tom Brady on a recent podcast over in the UK, I believe. And we'll credit that one. JT, back with you. We got a lot of new partners that we're welcoming. Some of our old friends are back. We really start August 1st. So if you'd like to be a part of that down the road, our football programming activates August 1st through the Super Bowl. And we have many of our partners that stay with us year-round, like Woodson Bourbon Whiskey, Boyd Gaming, M Resort, M-Ride, Remy Martin, Modelo, the DeCasta Verde Law Group, the Black Hole, Grimaldi's. We have Raising Cane's, Minden Jewelers, and there's some new ones coming in here that I got to wait till Monday. Fletcher Azul, Tequila We Told You, and Aspen Vodka. So we don't have a radio show without partners. We don't. I don't have one. I can't do it without partners, and we're thrilled to the partners that we have. The summer of fun. Connor, if we can get our word so people can text in before Q hits the air, and he's going to do it also. Go ahead.
Yep. Word of the day today is going to be country. If you want a trip to go to the Grand Canyon or Sedona, or maybe you just need that $3,000 cash prize, text us right now at 702-365-9200. The word of the day is country.
Nicely done. You're very good on the radio. Nice job by Connor today. How about our guest today? Barry Sims on his signature moment. It was against Bruce Smith. That was cool. Didn't know that story. Now we learned something new today. We talked to Jarrett Bell, the national writer for USA Today. You heard him. He was asking questions during the Fernando presser today. Nice to catch up with him on the sidelines. And Kevin Bolinger, the Fox 5 sports director, all joined us. Tomorrow we are live at Grimaldi's. I think there's an alumni or two coming. Can't confirm it, so I won't. There'll be some friends from the Raiders who are going to be there, some people that work for the team, a couple of my friends, and I'd like to be surprised by some other people. So if you're on Eastern, which is real easy to get to on the Henderson side, come to Grimaldi's there. We'll have great pizza flowing. We'll have unbelievable Remy Martin signature cocktails, and we'll be ready to do that. And it's going to be a pretty good weekend. AC/DC's in town. The alumni are starting to roll in. It's not alumni weekend, but there's a lot of them being invited out to practice, which is cool. And I'm just really happy with the show today. I got up in the morning, drove out there, and I was like, what are we going to do today on the show? I bump into Jarrett Bell. Barry Sims gets back to me. I walk up to Kevin Bolinger. Sure, what time do you need me? That's what I want to do every day. Put people on the radio who can tell stories and talk more about the team. Because it's exciting now. We have a new team, a new coaching staff, new vibe, and it's July heading into August, and we should enjoy it. It's enjoyable time. The misery index is at a 0, right? The misery index last year when I did the post game from Allegiant was about a 9. The misery index is at a 0, which means enjoy some weeks left in the summer. Because we're going to get ready for some football when the Dolphins roll into town. I can promise you one thing. We better bleep and win that game. I'm talking big. When I get in the elevator in the third quarter to go upstairs, that game better be in hand. But they never are. Football games are tough. Anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday. As always, Q's got a great show. He's about to start. Please keep it here to Raider Nation Radio.